Hey gang, and welcome to Dentist in the Know Hump Day Happy Hour. It's another Wednesday, it's another day to celebrate, and we're almost done with the week. So welcome to Dentist in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It's live, and it's over a cocktail in my little birthday chalice that was given to me by my amazing staff this week, and I appreciate that. So I told him it was going to be on the show tonight. It says, "Why limit happy to an hour?" Which I couldn't agree with those sentiments anymore. So anyway, you guys know the routine. I'm Dr. Jeff Horowitz. With me are Dr. Jennifer Bell and Dr. Chad Duplantis. We're all practicing dentists. We are all business owners, and we're all educators. Our job is to bring all of you in the know. So we've got a great show ahead of you tonight. There's Jennifer. There's my good friend Chad. We have an amazing show tonight, everyone. So you've heard me reference Brian Baliwas. Amazing guy. I've known him for a lot of years now. He is a huge social influencer. What I admire the most about him is I think he's a true inspiration to young dentists who want to practice the way that they want to practice. He, built a practice in the San Francisco area. In fact, right in San Francisco. He used the powers of social media and his quest to find amazing education. He calls himself the dental nerd. So I can definitely identify with that. But Brian's going to join us in just a few minutes. And I think if you've ever thought about, maybe practicing in a different way or practicing the way that you want to, Brian will be a real inspiration. And he's also going to talk to us about the Seattle Study Club. So with that said, I'm wondering, Chad, if JB has any news.
The first item of business that I think is worth discussing, most clinicians may not be aware that there has been an uptick in activity in the dental rating system. What does that mean? Well, a lot of dental insurance companies are starting to look at third-party vendors who are applying rating systems to clinicians. What are they looking at? They're looking at the number of redos of particular teeth over a certain period of time. They're looking at success ratios. They're looking at all kinds of statistics that you're basically providing to them every time you submit a claim for payment. This actually got a lot of traction in California in 2021 when Delta Dental sort of unveiled their new dentist quality rating system. And so they have a director listing as of April of 2021 and a rating system for dental professionals within California. The ADA and the AGD and many other major organizations are not extremely excited about the prospect of a dental provider rating system. I think we could all argue, if we were even just to look at something very simple like our own Google ratings, there are some in there that are very valid, and then there are some in there that are not so valid. So anytime we start taking in a lot of data and statistics from EOBs and claim submissions from public opinion, et cetera, it may skew the perception of a provider. So we are continuing to look, if you're involved in the ADA and the AGD, they are continuing to look at these different rating systems that are gaining some traction within a lot of major insurance providers to see if we can, number one, stop the rating system altogether, but if not, come up with a more amenable solution that might bode well for clinicians as well. Still a little too early to tell, but I do think this is something we need to keep a pulse on and be very aware of its, development over time, and to continue to be active in participating in the government process or the lobbying process to see if we can continue to have a seat at the table. So if you weren't aware of it, I thought it would be worth mentioning tonight. There was another study that came out of the ADA. It looks like it's the first of its kind post-COVID, looking at anxiety and stress levels, depression specifically, from clinicians over the time period of 2020 and 2021. So they actually were able to get data from over 8,000 dental health providers. That included dental hygienists as well as dentists, and definitely saw an uptick in anxiety and depression through the pandemic. I don't think that's unique to dentistry, but I do think being on the front line, oftentimes during the pandemic with a lot of uncertainty, we definitely saw some of the depression, anxiety amongst our colleagues and professionals, and perhaps even amongst ourselves. I think they're continuing to collect data to assess mental health wellness in the dental health community space to ensure that that is improving over time. They are seeing improvements in the numbers since the onset of the pandemic in 2020, but it does look like this is going to continue to be a measure that they want to track and keep tabs on. You know, it's no secret to most that the dental profession in general has suffered for a long time with mental health issues. I think when I started dental school, we were known as the highest suicide rate amongst professionals. And if things like pandemic, inflation, overhead, dental insurance, and provider ratings continue to create a compression upon professionals in the dental health space, then there's certainly concern that their mental health and well-being may deteriorate over time. So I'm glad the ADA is continuing to collect data. I'm glad they're shining light and making this information known so that we can provide solutions or support for our clinicians who are suffering and struggling. And we've lost a fair number over the last 2 years due to mental health issues. So we would like to see that get the attention and intervention that it deserves. And with that uplifting and enlightening news, I'll turn it back over to my friends. The dental health ratings, this is something that we're looking at in the Dental Practice Council and the AGD. This is no joke. And I really don't like where it's going. I don't like I don't like how it's being proposed and sort of marketed and twisted a bit. And
well, the problem with redos, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the problem with redos is they can be patient-based. I mean, I get it that we can try to tell the patients what they need to do to reduce their risk, but are the patients always going to do what they need to do to reduce their risk? So if I'm in a high caries area, am I a worse dentist?
Well, that's just it, right? How much of that, I mean, particularly if you subscribe to Coy's theories of risk management and giving the ownership of your risk and disease profile back to the patient. And I commonly say, I can be the best dentist in the world and do the best crown you've ever seen, but I cannot control what you do when you leave here. So if you open a beer bottle with it, or you drink Mountain Dew solidly for the next, 7 months, Godspeed. And ultimately, that's what the rating systems are going to do. They're not going to give any onerous or ownership to the patient and their risk profile, only to the clinicians and their shoddy dentistry. So Godspeed.
Unbelievable.
Maybe Brian can tell us a little bit, because it does seem like California might be the poster child for dental provider ratings. So maybe, he can provide us some insight as well.
Amazing. Why don't you bring Brian on? And before we do that, I need to mention that this is another great episode brought to everyone by our good friends at Q Optics and Quality Aspirators. And I believe Brian might have something to say about that. So Chad, you want to introduce him?
Yeah, I'd love to. So about 5 years ago, I met this kid. And we were in Lake Tahoe. We had a great week. We, he had some great ideas, and we started talking about like social media. And I realized that we were on a completely different level, because I was on the tune of, well, I haven't seen that on my Facebook. And he started talking about like Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all these things. I'm like, what the hell is that? No, I'm teasing. But anyways, Brian.
You're really not.
Yeah. Kind of, sort of. But, when you think of the word nerd, I've called a patient, I've said something to a patient about that's kind of nerdy. And I realize when you're younger, it's kind of embarrassing to be a nerd. When you're older, it's kind of something to be really proud of. Brian has the best handle on Instagram ever at SF Dental Nerd, 37.5 thousand followers, close to 38,000 followers. I had this young lady come into my office and said, "Hey, I'm sure you're a great dentist, but do you know this at SF Dental Nerd guy?" I said, "Yeah, hold on, let me get him on the phone." So I called him, and all of a sudden I was like at this super cool level. That was a few years ago, but I tell you, Brian, I've learned so much from you. I always enjoy being around you, and it's just an honor to have you here tonight. So thank you. And he's a graduate of UOP.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, and a Q Optics user. We were talking about sponsors for the show, and I was like, I love Q Optics. I've got a no joke in this office right now. There's like 5 pairs of Q Optics just floating around.
Yeah,
between Adam and I.
Isn't it kind of like when you find something that you like that's at a decent price point, you're like, hell yeah, I'll take another pair. And so you have different magnifications, you have a backup pair, which I never did with any other loops. I'd go from one brand to another to try and find something that I might like better, but I've absolutely loved Q Optics too.
For me, it's because I'm getting old. I'm turning 40 soon, and I'm starting to realize, we talked about this a little beforehand, I'm starting to realize how much it matters to be sitting up, having my neck straight. And I just like declination angle. So for me, if I can max out a declination angle, I'm all for it. And for whatever reason, not everybody can use a curved lens and get that, lens right underneath. So I can actually I could probably have my loops on right now and still see the screen because they're so low, and it allows me to just kind of do my thing. You know what I mean?
It's so interesting that you said that, because when I was in dental school and I did not have a Q Optics set of loops for a long time, because I was still trying to get comfortable doing anything that was outside of the loop vision, I would take them off to do anesthesia or to be able to do anything with a global perspective. I don't feel that need with Q Optics at all because of where they're located within the lens. I can do a lot of extraoral review or anesthesia without feeling like my loops are impeding my global view of what I want to see.
Yes. And that's why, a lot of people have been talking about these new loops that come out and down. And again, this is not a knock on anything. I think you should try out all loops and just find out what works best for you. But when you have those things right in front of your eyes, you try to like look over your loops. It's the worst.
Yeah.
And so it's what works for me.
So I got a ton of questions for you, but I want to start right here. And so the first is, when did you really start getting into Instagram, and what have you seen it's done for your practice since you did that?
I've been a social media user since the early days of social media. I'm an early adopter in most things. I remember when I joined Facebook, and our university, UC Davis, was the 13th school or something like that to be invited to Facebook. You know what I mean? So it's like when these platforms come out, I like trying them out, but that's because I'm a pretty social person. And all these platforms is just a way to connect with people. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that I know things about everybody here without having to necessarily talk to you or call you or get on the phone. It's kind of cool to go, Jeff, happy birthday, man. That's cool. And so for me, and it's really, everything's going to come right back to this theme. It's about connecting with people. And so if you think about that, what have I used social media for? I had to connect with patients. Those are people. So in my early days, it was kind of, I've got to connect with patients and get them in the practice. My practice grew really quickly. I'm proud to say that now we don't really market. It's not my big focus. You probably notice I don't post a lot targeting patients. There was a time where I was connecting with other dentists, colleagues. It got really popular during the pandemic when everybody was going live. And now, I don't know, I'm kind of going with the flow. This is going to sound silly. My practice is really busy. And so social media has, I would say that it's taken a backseat, but it's always had a backseat. I've always put my dentistry above it. And that's why, I was part of different groups and different speaking groups and trying to hang out with people like yourselves, people who are excellent clinicians, great mentors, and more importantly, people who are willing to share information.
Yeah, I remember several
Chad, he
years
just
ago.
gave us a compliment. That was
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Jennifer
Thank you, by
usually
the way.
gets all the compliments, not all of us.
Yeah, thank you, by
Oh,
the way, for saying
Yeah.
that about us, and we feel the same way about
no,
you. But I remember a few years ago, you and another good friend of ours, Dr. Press Shaw, actually took a hands-on live course live on Instagram, and we're talking back and forth throughout the whole thing, which I thought was really cool.
yeah.
Uh, do you remember that night that you all did that?
I do remember that. And it was funny. Those are the early days of, I remember having ideas going, you know what? We should have CE online. I mean,
Exactly.
this is how it should be. And people were like, oh, that's not going to work. And here we are now. I mean, it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's one of the best things that's happened during the pandemic, because it became so hard for people to get those hands-on hours, and now they're able to do it. So that was a huge kudos to Clinician's Choice. And I was sitting there watching it that night, and I was like, man, Clinician's Choice better be buttering these guys bread, because they're taking this course live online, and everybody's getting to see what they're doing. That is just incredible marketing. But that's when I really realized that you totally fulfilled the at SF Dental Nerd thing, because when you're talking about an MIFL composite and you're doing it live, that's a little bit nerdy, man.
Yeah, it's a little dorky. What's funny is I have patients, because you remember I used to target patients. So I have a lot of patients who follow me. And it's so funny. Sometimes I get these messages from patients like, hey, I have no idea what that means. I see everybody's laughing, but yeah, cool.
Great
Glad
job.
that I'm glad my dentist is like in the know. So,
Yeah.
So Brian, to that point, I've got a question. Have there been any big mistakes that you've made on Insta? Like, for everyone that's watching, because I mean, you have a ton of followers, so obviously you figured out how to do this thing the right way. But are there some huge mistakes or anything funny that you did, or that you can look back on and say it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then?
I think it's really interesting because it kind of mimics dental school. Like, we're all taught certain ways to do things in dental school, and then we venture out in the world and we try out all these crazy things, and then you almost kind of find yourself falling back to the basics, as in, you know what, like, this bonding agent I was doing it, yeah, it may be more steps, but it works, you know? And so
Mhm.
with social media, I remember using it and I was like, okay, I got to connect with people. That's the whole point of this. If I can like get intimate with people and show that I'm an authority and really connect with people, then there'll be some reciprocity there. People want to come to my practice, or people want to follow and whatnot. And then I kind of got away from that. And then it became this like, well, I've got to come up with the next video that's going to go viral. And how many followers do I have? Oh my God, I got this many followers. Well, how many people do I follow? Well, that ratio is kind of off. So let me unfollow some of these people. And it's this focus on
Mhm.
people have heard me say this over and over again, vanity metrics. And I mean, it was really sad. There was a point there where I would post something and then I'd be like, oh my God, that only got 200 likes. You think I should take it down?
Yeah.
And then and it's like controlling my life at that point, right? Like I'm going,
Such a
oh my God.
loser.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like my self-esteem has just gone down. My phone wasn't vibrating enough. So stupid. And I'm really glad that I kind of found my way back towards what this is. Like, I am a dentist first. I always hate the word influencer, but I get it. There's no other word to really describe it. I hate it because I'm a dentist who happens to have a social media following. And I think far too often, a lot of younger docs or people who are trying to get into social media, you're trying to be Kylie Jenner and not realizing that, like, you got to make makeup. You know what I mean? Or you got to have fashion, so it's like, cool, you want to be on social media. You also got to do dentistry, because my followers aren't paying my student loans. You know, my followers aren't paying for my CE. The number of comments I get doesn't pay for my food or my rent. It's like, what are we? We went to dental school. We didn't go to social media school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I made a ton of mistakes just focusing on the wrong things. And because of that, I think I posted a lot of things that I've offended people in the past. I guarantee there's somebody watching right now who's like, this clown. I remember when he posted this, and that. It was really offensive. And for that, I'm sorry. I've taken down a lot of stuff. I know things that are on the internet stay on the internet, but we all make mistakes, and I feel like there's always this looming fear that somebody's going to bring up one of those old posts and I'm going to get canceled and my Yelp site's going to be all crazy. But it is what it is.
That's a really important point, because I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, you're branded forever. This is a tattoo that if you put something out there, it doesn't matter if you take it down. Somebody could have taken a screenshot of it and it'll come back and haunt you at a later date. But when I speak to dentists, I'm like, you're one screenshot away from success or disaster. And social media can be a completely humbling experience. And I believe there is a new term for the amount of likes that you get, because there's a new show called My Digital Addiction, and it's like intervention for people that are addicted to their phones.
Did you sign me up?
No, shit. No kidding. There's a new medical term for someone who is obsessed with the amount of likes that they get, and it's kind of scary that our kids are going to have to grow up in this.
There are physical things that happen too. My right thumb, I get a pain here if I'm on my phone too much. Why? Because I have my phone and I'm constantly scrolling. And so here we are, wear loops, use an assistant. We want to avoid repetitive motion because we want to practice forever.
Yeah.
That's a pretty repetitive motion. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, not only that, think about, the injury that all dentists are known for is the herniated disc C5, C6 from doing this and this and this. And what are we doing on our phones all day? We put the loops on so we don't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we take our loops off and we do this, right?
So you're saying I need my Q optics to be scrolling through.
Yes.
Exactly. Hey,
I
I
see
think
you.
this might be a thing. We need to talk to Brent about this. A pair
Hey,
of
Brent.
Some kind of prosthetic.
Yes.
Also for scrolling.
All kidding aside,
lives.
that is called decurvane's tenosinovitis. There is a medical term for it. It's also called radial styloid tenosinovitis.
They used to call it
That's
BlackBerry
the
thumb.
thumb thing.
You don't know that. You can't even say it, Chad.
You can't spell it.
It was on the news the other night, and he said it. I was like, I'm looking that up.
It's a real thing. I saw it on the internet.
Well, in the end, I think, because I think most of your listeners right now, they're all dentists or in the dental profession. Like, really just kind of go back to what's important, and don't get caught up on this. Don't turn into a medical term so that Chad can label you with these crazy terms. Yeah. It really comes down to like using social media for good. And so I got to tell you, I've connected with mentors, colleagues. It's crazy. I can DM people like Jerry Sheesh and have a response. It's connecting people, and if you can either use it to kind of feed your ego, which I've done in the past. You can use it to put people down and tear people down. I get it. Or you can just use it to better what you are, which is a dentist and who loves to connect with people. So there's tons of CE you can take now. And I got introduced to some of my mentors who are COIS grads through social media. I picked that continuum because that's what's made them successful. But there's all sorts of different schools of thought that share all that information through social media. It's cool. It's a cool world.
I think that's an interesting thing you bring up, because that's definitely a struggle that I have, the vulnerability of being online and folks not playing nice with each other in the sandbox. But then you make the connection with somebody who you never would have met otherwise, and you see a fundamental change. So it's definitely this double-edged sword, if you will. But I would really like to hear more about your educational journey. And, interestingly, I had a D3 in my office today, and we were talking about education and what does he do when he leaves dental school and he's not going to do a residency. And he was already starting to kind of look at different pockets like implant continuums, et cetera. And we started talking about COIS, and we talked about global perspective, and whether it's Sphere or COIS or Pancake, or whatever it is that you feel passionate about. Number one, what if he were sitting in your office today saying, what does my educational journey look like day one after graduation? What advice or perspective would you have? And two, talk to us a little bit about your journey, what that educational journeys look like.
it gives me hope, because the number one question I get on my social media, and I answer about 200 to 300 DMs a day personally, but the number one question is, hey, can you tell me about this specific continuum? Or, hey, can you tell me what CE I should be taking? Or, hey, I'm about to graduate, what should I do? So it's kind of cool that people are looking for that knowledge. And we can probably have an entire episode of why that is, and what's going on with dental schools, and what's being taught and what isn't being taught. But we don't have that much time. So for me, I think the biggest tip I can give somebody is find people who are where you would like to be in life, who are doing the type of dentistry you want to be doing, who have families the way you want to have a family, and live in places you want to live. And then talk to them and say, how did you get here? Because there's no right or wrong answer. This is like Hogwarts. Okay. You can be Slytherin. You can be, Gryffindor. You can follow any of these little paths, but you should definitely, one, be part of a bigger global continuum, right? So everybody goes, well, what's Kois's philosophy? It's like, it's not like a specific thing. It's a way of thinking about everything. And so you need that. And then once you have that, then you can kind of start taking these little specifics and see how it fits into your global perspective. So again, just find out. For me, my mentors are Kois people. So I took a course. I fell in love with it. I loved how welcoming the center was. And I like predictable dentistry. I just, there's a lot of different ways to do things, but in the end, I want stuff that's going to last, because I want to drive up my rating, because that's the cool way to be a dentist.
In California, that's obviously very important.
Yeah. So no, I'm just kidding. I want stuff to last, and I want it to be predictable. I don't want to struggle to get to that endpoint. And Kois has a great system. I mean, I have this on my desk. This is like the roadmap to everything that we do for patients. And I'm going to make this statement. I hate extreme statements. Like, everyone fits into this thing somehow. So that's kind of my journey. And obviously I find little things, like I've taken implant pathway and things that kind of feed the specifics. But I think you just have to find what feels right. And it's okay. I've taken some of the other ones that I didn't continue on, but I tried it out. I think you just got to try out a bunch of things, and you got to know that it's going to cost some money. You have to invest. I mean,
and
there's
you
no
have to
free
figure
lunch
out
in
what
life.
philosophy works for you.
Yeah. And for your patient base.
What you're willing to implement within your practice.
And Brian, wouldn't you agree too that it's not even just about having a place where you can get that knowledge, but when you're around, and to Jennifer's point, when you're just around all of these other people who are willing to say, look, I don't have all the answers, and here's a system that can help me find the answers. And just being around all those like-minded people, we learn as much outside of the lecture hall as we do in our communicating with each other, at the breaks and at the wall of donuts.
Dude, I'm on my keto diet, and you'll probably notice I didn't have a single donut. And so I've been keeping it real. But yes, it's all about those conversations with other people. That's actually a good lead into the thing that you brought up earlier. These are all the classes I've been taking. That's all instruction. Here's how you do this. Here's cases, here's examples. And then there's this whole other side of application. Now that I take this and actually see a few patients, what do I do with that information? Does it just, oh, I did this and this happened, and then I did this on this person and this happened? Or do you join a study club? Do you join an organization that now allows you to meet with specialists in your area, meet with other practitioners, and share ideas? So Seattle Study Club is that for me. And again, there's tons of different study clubs. There's such different groups. But for me, it's the application side of things. Now I'm getting to hear from Bill Robbins and all these people, and really get to see how all this knowledge is applied. Yeah. And now it's kind of like the consortium of different schools of thought, it's a cool vibe to kind of come together. And this is what gets me excited. It's funny. I always say, like, I would trade all the followers I have, my entire social media page, for just like a tenth of the clinical skill that's on the screen right now. Like, there's so much cool dentistry to be done and there's so many different ways to do it. How can you not get excited about this? And so, yeah, that's what we're doing with Seattle Study Club. I'm trying to bring that to some younger people.
So you brought up Seattle Study Club. Tell us about this this Rising Stars event that's going on, and I know you're a big part of that. Maybe let everyone else out there know what that's all about.
Yeah, I've gone broke spending money on CE, and a big part of that is if you've been to Seattle Study Club Symposium. Look, I love Seattle Study Club, but that symposium, one, it's always at a Ritz-Carlton or something. Okay. Two, you have to stay at the hotel because it's usually some secluded Ritz-Carlton. So you don't want to be the guy who's like Ubering in from like the Motel 6. And then three, to go to the symposium, it's like, I think the fees right now are either like a kidney or your firstborn or,
right on.
you know, or some sort of like blood sacrifice. It just depends on what's going on, but it costs a lot of money. So then, you know, I really love the fact that they're embracing like, look, this is a cool way that's affordable. I think it's like under $2,000 to spend some time, get a vibe, like see what it's like to be in treatment planning competitions, to treatment plan, see how other people treatment plan, to get some business savvy lectures. The speakers and the content is just awesome, and it's at an affordable price in Chicago. Chicago's the best place to have meetings, unless it's in February, like they always like to do, because it's freezing. Because there's so many hotels and it's affordable. I just think it's a cool like entryway to see if Seattle Study Clubs could fit into your CE application, and then on top of that, it's a cool way to meet other people. So, you know, you may go back and now the club can connect you with a local study club. So that way, you know, if they're meeting it monthly or whatever, now you have somewhere where you can take your cases and really kind of apply everything you've learned.
I am really looking forward to it. I think I will not be speaking. You will be, but I will be one of the on-floor kind of moderators and working with the treatment plan presentations and the treatment plan competition. And I will tell you, if you've never witnessed one of those, it's amazing. I mean, we competed a few years ago against Bill Robbins, Brian Schroeder, Tito Norris, and Jason, what's the perio out of? Yeah, Stoner. And it was like we were just sitting there just like, whoa. I mean, it was really amazing. You had the young guns versus the old farts. It was a lot of fun. And they're really not old farts, but it's at least fun to say. But it was truly a blast. And so this year I get to kind of moderate that and judge. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And it is a great way. It is a great organization. It certainly changed my career much as Kois has, but I would say that, you know, Kois and Seattle Study Club are pretty symbiotic and they work very well together. But it's, you know, Seattle Study Club is kind of school of thought agnostic when it comes to those things. And I think
that's exactly it.
You know, it's going to bring all of those ideas together in a very safe place. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And even though it comes at a lower price point, I love the fact that Michael Cohen and the team over there, they're still putting that Seattle Study Club touch to the meeting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I remember my first meeting, I'm like, I don't know where to go. And they're like, oh, your schedule's right there. And I'm like,
yeah,
what? They're like, oh, it's right there. And so I flip open my name badge and it's got not a schedule. It's got my schedule like in there. Just like all class. It was awesome.
Yeah, and you know, with any of these, I think it's safe to say for Kois, you look at it and there's a little bit of sticker shock when you do see how much some of these things cost for a weekend or whatever. But you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your profession, and once you go, it's a drop in the bucket to the knowledge that you'll leave with if you incorporate it into your practice. That's where the onus is on you.
I'm going to go on a crazy limb here, Chad, and say, and there are some people that would disagree with this statement. I have never, and you know, I'm probably on the end of the spectrum of people that has throwing money at everything I could possibly try to learn, maybe sometimes too much, too fast.
Have witnessed.
Yeah, yeah. But I will say I have never regretted a penny I have spent on CE, because even if it was too much, let's say I spent $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 on a weekend, and I come back and I have one or two new tricks in my bag that over the next couple of years brings in, 15 times that amount. And even if it doesn't, even if it just makes my life easier, or as Brian said, makes me do more predictable dentistry, like where I'm not going to get as many emergency calls, I just never have regretted spending that money. I have never had buyer's remorse from CE, but maybe that's a discussion that everyone would like to have. I've never experienced it.
It's funny.
I would agree, but Jeff, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, that's the cheapest bar tab that we've ever had on a weekend.
I'd agree.
It's funny hearing from younger docs who they just graduate and they're like, well, what am I going to learn? Am I going to be able to apply? And they're so worried about this, like being able to do. And I tell new grads all the time, I go, look, you can cut a crown prep probably quicker and better than I can. But it's not about that. Like, that's a certain aspect of dentistry, which is like doing better actual dentistry in the chair. There's this idea of like how you think about dentistry. And I would challenge that I can't, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, this is just a product of my CE. Take any new grad from any dental school and I will out treatment plan you. I will make that statement right now. Like, any of us here can out treatment plan that. And they might see that as, oh, that's just being aggressive, or no, it's not. It's just seeing more. And so I think when it comes down to it, you want to pay money and you'll see more. And then from there, you'll produce more, make more, and just be happier in general.
What I think makes for incredible CE, though, is it's one thing to know how to do it. It's another thing to know why you're doing it. And I think that is the point where in your career, you feel less like a technician and more like a clinician when you start to say, I know what materials I'm going to use. I know why I'm using them. I know how to prep this tooth. I know what material to use on it. I mean, that's just a point in your career where it gets fun, as opposed to just knowing how to do it. And I think that's such a big part of the camaraderie, is picking up those little tips and tricks that you can learn from the person sitting next to you in the course, and not necessarily watching a step-by-step PowerPoint or video of how to do it.
Yeah.
Brian, let's talk. So first off, love the Glencairn glass.
Oh, so it's kind of funny. I know this is like Wednesday hump day happy hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never been invited on their show before, so I don't know what they're all about. So I have water just in case. I thought you guys sipping some wine. So I went fancy. I was like, okay, I'll drink my scotch like I usually drink. But I was like, I know Jeff Horowitz. Maybe they get a little crazy. I brought a White Claw just in case. You know what I mean? Like, so I was prepared anyway.
Oh, I love the diversity in your drinks, but also
they didn't have any Zima.
I've heard that you can shotgun a White Claw.
Oh God.
Chad actually did that at a corporate event.
As probably someone who fits the demographic of folks who you think drink White Claws, High Noon is the current choice beverage, just so we're on the same page. Okay.
I do like High Noon.
It's delicious. Anyway, I wanted to talk about, damn it, I got lost in the Glencairn and now I cannot come out of it. Oh, I know what it was. Young grads, let's talk about them, because one, we could really dive into. I thought it was an interesting comment you said when you were commenting that young grads coming out want to know dollar for dollar, like, what am I going to get out of this CE? And yet they're paying for a dental education, which we could argue dollar for dollar, maybe not getting quite the return on their investment that some of us got when we purchased that a few years ago. But I want to talk a little bit about how younger dentists are consuming education online YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I don't think they're really on that, but Instagram and YouTube. And then what the value of in-person CE is. I think we could talk about connectivity, but I think you've lived that perspective and you've seen both of those modalities. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a good analogy here. I really love golf. And right now there's this huge trend where you can go on YouTube and get all the instruction you need to be like a tour level player. I mean, you can learn all sorts of stuff. So there is this online world that it's quick information. You can do it. It's no substitute for lessons weekly with a pro at your local club where you're actually swinging a club and they're watching you. And then on top of that, it's no substitute for experience, as in you going out there and actually playing a round of golf. And I would equate going to the driving range as live hands-on workshops, right? So yes, you can be a little hermit and sit in your office and take in all the online CEs, and you would probably get your fellowship from the AGD, all 500 units if it was allowed, all online. But I think that needs to be a good mix. And there's, for many reasons. One, just the human aspect of it. Whenever I see you guys at meetings, it's not like a, hey, Chad, and then walk on by. It's a, oh my God, how are you? How's the family? Your son is taller than you. Like he's growing like it's just all sorts of stuff. And there's that connection that you don't get online. And then two, the hands-on stuff. Like people, you have to go in there and you have to see things firsthand. You got to be able to do. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
well,
I think
and don't you think too, in person, there's more real. So, I can paint any picture I want online of how great I am or, whatever my dentistry I want to portray to you. But the reality is, even as a lecturer, I'm much more vulnerable because it's not in a public forum. And then in person, we like to say Dinks is like the after bar meetup after the CE course. Like in that moment, you're so open to, number one, discussion, vulnerability, because no one's recording it. No one's taking screenshots. Hopefully we're all just coming together in a very safe space to sort of share and experience growth and objectivity. And the internet is not so safe.
Yeah.
Wait, no one's recording us? I could be saying like way worse stuff than I
I'm going to get real with you right now. Every week I have to send, when I communicate with our podcast guy, I'm like, can you please cut out the following segments that Jeff said?
The
so
opposite.
I feel like you're being real online anyway.
There's an opposite look to that too, which is there's a lot of live in-person, I'll call it old school CE.
Yeah.
That is so awesome that also needs to embrace the online so people hear about them. So it always kills me when, and I'm not going to name any names, but let's say you get old Dr. Joe Schmo, who's been doing surgeries for 20, 30 years. He's a KOL for all these different companies and he teaches courses. And you're like, you should do some stuff online. It's like, oh, I don't do that. I don't know how to. It's like, awesome. Then nobody's going to hear about you. Mm-hmm. Or if they do, it's at a much slower rate. Why not go out there and just be helpful? Give somebody a tip and post something. Try and connect with some people. Be a mentor online. And guess what? You'll go take the class. I've never not taken Adamo and Amanda's course because they've already shared all this information elsewhere. It's like, if anything, it's a gateway drug to this bigger stuff, Mm-hmm. And so it's a give and take. It needs both. And things are moving in that direction where it's a thing. I remember begging people pre-COVID. I'm like, hey, I've got this online platform. I'm really trying to do something positive with it. Would you be willing to go on there and just go live with me and discuss dentistry? We could just talk about things. And people are like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And it was funny during the pandemic, getting phone calls from everybody going, hey, do you want to go live right now? Do you remember when everybody was just going live? I think we crashed the servers because everybody's just going live. I'm like, where were you like a year ago when I called you?
Yeah.
So anywho, things are just moving that way. And I think it's going to get better, especially when these platforms get better. I don't know this platform, which is StreamYard. It's pretty cool. The video is really clear. I like the format that people can drop in and out. But soon we'll be doing this in the metaverse. We'll be in 3D and I can high five you guys. It'll be awesome. You'll get to see people's reactions, because right now we say a joke and I have no idea if that landed or didn't. That's the worst part about webinars, right? I know everybody here is like pretty, charismatic and whatnot. You guys drop one-liners in your lectures all the time. How awful is that? You're sitting there in your living room giving some webinar and you say the thing you always say and you're like, okay, moving on.
And we're moving on.
That's why I have introduced the laugh track, the webinar laugh track.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So it's like old episodes of The Love Boat when I tell a one-liner and then, the people in the studio audience laughing. It works really
Jeff,
well.
You got to pick a new sitcom to reference, but it can't be The Love Boat anymore.
He made a Zima reference.
This is true. Was it with a Jolly Rancher or no Jolly Rancher? That's what I need to know.
Oh my God.
Hey, he did make a Zima reference, but it worked, man. Us old people were like, oh, hell yeah, we know Zima.
I remember Zima. I wasn't old enough to drink it, but I remember it.
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough to drink it either, but I do remember it.
Yeah,
but you drank it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. My mom watches the show sometimes, so I'm going to just say I do remember it.
Yeah, but I think what you guys are doing is awesome. I love the fact that you guys get to, and I think your audience is a wide range of groups. Yeah. I mean, do you guys extend this out into the recordings and put them on YouTube for people to watch as well? And
and podcast.
Yeah, that's where it's at. You guys, why did I even question? You guys just know what's up.
Respect the elderly. That's very true.
I think we have to put that up.
That definitely gets up there. Thank you, Brent.
Right,
I agree.
When he says he's close to 40, and I'm like, you got to stop bringing that up, Jeff.
That's our buddy from Q Optics, which it's a great time to mention to Brent Downs. We were just talking about this virtual world. Can Q Optics make some Oculus lenses so that we can do this? With the high fives, like Brian said. Just an idea, Brent. Just an idea.
And I think there's some kind of a reader, or even like a lens that protects you, a screen protection lens that's made to allow you to keep your neck up. I think there's something big here, Brent. I'm just saying.
I feel like this is from The Jerk, and you're about to come out with the thing.
Grab it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The OptiGrab.
And now I'm like this.
So I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Hey, when is the Seattle Study Club?
Yes, September. Tell us about the event. We're goofing
September
around
16th, September 16th and 17th. I believe it's a Friday, Saturday. So I'm flying in.
I believe you're right. It's
Thursday,
16th, 17th. It's that second, third Friday in September. Third Friday, Saturday in September.
And do you have to be a member of Seattle City?
Great question.
Or to participate?
That's an amazing question. It's probably every time I post about the event, I get people asking me, and I go, I don't think you do.
No.
And you don't. But what's cool about this is I've actually have a couple friends who practice, and I go, this is a great time to meet people who are kind of like-minded, maybe not in philosophy, but in the desire to be a better dentist. And that's what it's all about. I love going to events like this and just meeting people and having connections for life. I mean, it's so awesome, So it's 16th, 17th. It's in Chicago. I think somebody posted the link. I think Chad did.
Yeah.
Check that out. And the price is
we'll have
awesome.
it up again tomorrow on the site, on the Facebook page as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn that over to Erin. I'm going to ask Erin if she would please make a post tomorrow with a little bit more information about the event. And I know I'll see Brian out there, see some of my other good friends out there, so I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'll be facilitating one of the little talks, but a lot of the people who I know are going are younger dentists who are interested in owning their own practice. And just like the most valuable lectures for me are where people post their clinical failures.
Yeah.
I'm going to my little talk. I think it's the end of the second day. I'll be talking about a lot of failures that I've had as a dentist. in terms of taking on this practice that's led to, I'll be open right now, that's led to lawsuits, change of staff, just all sorts of things that, like, we were told by people in dental school, like, oh, whatever you do when you buy a practice, don't change a thing because you don't want to rock the boat. Yeah, except for when they're doing things not proper,
right,
or against your ethics, like change it right away and set the tone. So I've got all sorts of things, purchases I've made where I'm like, well, that was a waste of money, and awesome purchases where I'm like, that really helped the practice. How to get consultants. I mean, I'm going to just dive into everything I've done to kind of get to where I am. And it's great. We're 3 years in to this practice, and we had a meeting with our CPA about a month ago. And he was like, you guys have gotten to a place where most people take quite a bit of time to get to, but he was talking to us about profitability and whatnot. And we were like, this is cool. It's kind of exciting.
Good deal.
But it didn't come with without a lot of mistakes. So
yeah.
Great to hear it, buddy.
We're certainly proud of you, bud.
Deserved. All right, Chad. Well, we are at 9:31. So, Brian, man, it was amazing hanging out with you again. It was great seeing you this last weekend. You didn't get the Rona, right?
I did not. I had it maybe 3 or 4 months ago. But...
Yeah. I had it in March. A few people did, but you know what? Most everybody has either had it or is vaccinated, and most people are doing really well with it. So all I can tell you is take your vitamins. Let's just keep on trucking. So, Chad, you want to close this out?
Sure. So what I'll say tonight is that we talked a lot about CE. And I want to close with, there was a dentist that posted in a site this week that said, does anybody know of any free online webinars this week for CE? Which code word is, I have a license renewal at the end of July and I need 12 hours this week and I am too cheap to go get CE. So anyhow, if you think of CE as expensive, please don't think of it that way, because it's more expensive to not take CE.
Yes.
I got into CE later in my career. I started off, and dentistry to me was a job. I loved my job. Once I started taking CE, dentistry became a dream profession that I just loved every single day, more and more and more. So please invest in yourself, invest in your practice, and use what you learn. And I think that you will greatly benefit from it. So thanks, Brian, for being here. Jeff and JB, always great to see you. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Good night, y'all.
All right. Have a good night. And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession. So let's make it a great day, dinks.